Ingrid Marie Rosen was born in Renton, Washington on August 2, 1975. Described as brilliant, charming, approachable, and caring from a young age, Ingrid aspired to become a nurse to help others and pursued this goal throughout her life. She graduated from Canyon del Oro High School in Tucson, Arizona, in 1993 and earned her Bachelor of Science degree in nursing from the University of Arizona in University of Arizona in 1997. 3 years later, she relocated to Seattle and began working as a nurse at Swedish Medical Center, where she earned a reputation for being a tireless worker who was both personable and compassionate. Ingrid's dedication and affable nature quickly endeared her to colleagues and patients alike. She would often arrive early, work long hours, and was so well-liked that she made many friends who enjoyed socializing with her after work. It was during one of these social gatherings that she met Phil Lyne, who would become her future husband. Witnesses noted the strong chemistry between them, and they soon married, prompting Ingrid to change her last name from Rosen to Lyne. The couple had 3 daughters and enjoyed a seemingly perfect life together for 13 years. However, after 13 years of marriage, Ingrid and Phil divorced, leaving many astonished at the end of what appeared to be a happy union. Despite their separation, they maintained a strong and communicative relationship, remaining in touch for the sake of their daughters and continuing to share a close bond. As time passed, their daughters each forged their own paths, but Ingrid and Phil remained in contact, their feelings of love having faded. Ingrid, now seeking a new partner, faced a challenge. She and Phil shared many of the same social circles, including restaurants and other places they frequented together. This overlap made dating within their shared environment uncomfortable. To navigate this, Ingrid decided to use a dating app, specifically Plenty of Fish. She was upfront in her profile, detailing her interests, hobbies, and what she was looking for in a partner. At 40 years old, divorced, and with 3 daughters, Ingrid sought an honest man and believed that honesty was a quality she needed to reciprocate. In her search, Ingrid encountered a profile that intrigued her: John Charlton, a 37-year-old man who described himself as a non-smoking Catholic freethinker who drank only occasionally. John mentioned that he was currently a student in Seattle, but chose not to disclose what he was studying or what he was working on. He clarified that he wasn't seeking a romantic partner or a one-night stand. Instead, he was using the app solely to find friends. Ingrid found this level of honesty striking, so she decided to reach out to him. She reasoned that even though John wasn't looking for a romantic relationship, forming a friendship with him could lead to meeting his circle of friends, thus expanding her social network. They arranged to meet, and their first date went remarkably well. They connected, becoming good friends who continued to see each other regularly. However, Ingrid soon observed that John was incredibly attentive and romantic. He brought her flowers, invited her to meals, and gave her gifts. Despite his apparent devotion, he was hesitant to let their relationship progress further. Ingrid noted a few peculiarities about John. For one, he never invited her to his home, which led her to question whether he actually had a place of his own. Additionally, John relied on public transportation, subway, and taxis, never using a personal car, which made Ingrid wonder if he even owned one. These observations raised doubts in her mind about John's circumstances. Ingrid contemplated inviting John to move in with her, but she was acutely aware of the short time they had known each other and the potential complications given that she had 3 daughters. She didn't know him well enough to take such a significant step. He could potentially be a criminal or an undesirable person. Although she liked him a lot, the thought of asking him to live with her seemed imprudent. Introducing him to her social circle felt equally hasty, as John didn't immediately align with Ingrid's established life. Ingrid was a responsible woman with 3 daughters, a stable job, independence, and her own home, whereas John seemed to be in a very different situation. She appreciated him, but felt that their relationship was not yet serious enough to warrant such a commitment. If her mother were to learn about John, Ingrid feared a strong reaction. Ingrid shared her concerns only with her best friend, Nicole Rock. Nicole's reaction confirmed Ingrid's feeling that this relationship should remain discreet. On Friday, April 8, 2016, Phil Lyne spent his last day with the girls before taking them to their mother the following day. Ingrid used the opportunity to arrange a date with John, having swapped shifts with a colleague to leave work early and attend a Seattle Mariners baseball game with him. Although Ingrid was not particularly fond of baseball, she was willing to go along for John's sake. They met for a drink before the game, and while they were relaxing, Ingrid's phone rang. It was Nicole, inviting her out, but Ingrid declined, explaining that she had plans with John and was heading to the game. After the brief conversation, Ingrid hung up and continued enjoying her evening. The next morning, April 9th, at 7:30 a.m., Phil arrived at Ingrid's house with the girls. They eagerly rang the doorbell, but Ingrid did not answer. After several attempts, Phil looked through the windows and tried calling Ingrid, but she didn't respond. Concerned, Phil noticed that Ingrid, who was typically punctual and deeply involved in her children's lives, was unusually unresponsive. Additionally, her car, which was usually parked right in front of the garage, was nowhere to be seen. This situation led Phil to contact Ingrid's mother, Jorga Gabas, to inquire if she had any information about Ingrid's whereabouts. Jorga, who was very close to Ingrid, knew everything about her daughter's activities and routines. They even had spare keys to each other's homes and shared phone lines, a detail that would prove significant later on. Upon arriving at Ingrid's house with a spare key, Jorga and Phil noticed several unsettling details. While the house was impeccably tidy as usual, the master bedroom presented an odd scene. Ingrid's personal belongings, her purse, wallet, driver's license, house keys, and phone were all scattered about. Ingrid would never leave home without these items, especially not without her car keys and driver's license. The room also had a strong, unbearable smell of bleach. The odor was so intense that all windows and doors had to be opened to alleviate the stench. They proceeded to inspect the master bathroom, which was usually well maintained but now showed signs of excessive use of bleach. As Phil and Jorga continued their search, they found a 15-inch pruning saw in the bathroom sink. This discovery added to their growing sense of unease. The discovery of the pruning saw in the bathroom sink immediately triggered alarm bells for Jorga. Panicked and unsure of what to do, she initially called the police but felt frustrated by her inability to take further action while waiting for their response. She decided to take matters into her own hands. Jorga's first step was to visit the neighbors to gather any information they might have. She inquired if they had seen Ingrid with anyone recently or if she had been at home the previous night. It was during this visit that Jorga learned Ingrid had a new boyfriend, though his name remained a mystery. The neighbors mentioned seeing Ingrid arriving with this man the night before, describing him as a nice guy who had been spending time with her. Armed with this information, Jorga reached out to her best friend Nicole Rock to ask about John. Nicole revealed her disapproval of him, stating that he didn't seem right for Ingrid. Nicole also mentioned that they had had a romantic date the previous night, but unfortunately she didn't have additional details about John, such as his middle name, occupation, or address. Jorga then came up with a clever plan. Since she and Ingrid shared a phone line, she could review Ingrid's call log and billing statements to identify the Momo's statements. She examined the bill and noticed a number that appeared frequently. Using this number, she searched online and found it linked to a Facebook account belonging to a 37-year-old named John Robert Charlton. Without hesitation, Jorga grabbed her cell phone and sent a message to John Robert Charlton, identifying herself as Ingrid's mother and expressing concern over Ingrid's disappearance. She asked John if he had any information about Ingrid's whereabouts. John replied that he knew nothing about Ingrid's current situation or where she might be, claiming he had no information. Jorga, convinced he was lying, informed him that she had contacted 911 for help. John responded, expressing confusion and stating that while he and Ingrid had gone to a Mariners game the previous night, they did not spend the night together due to his responsibilities with his daughters. He questioned what exactly Jorga had been told about their relationship. Jorga informed him that the police would be in touch with him, at which point John ceased responding. When the police arrived at Ingrid's house, they found no significant clues aside from Ingrid's scattered personal belongings, including her purse, wallet, and ID. They were particularly struck by the intense smell of bleach and the presence of the pruning saw, but there was no visible blood at the scene. They also noted that Ingrid's car was reported as stolen and issued a notice to locate it, sealing the house as part of the investigation. A few hours later, the police received a disturbing call from a resident in a neighborhood where each house had its own garbage bin. The caller reported that while preparing his own trash for disposal, he discovered 3 white garbage bags in his bin that did not belong to him. Upon inspection, the bags contained what appeared to be human body parts: legs, arms, and feet. The sight was so horrifying that he immediately contacted emergency services. When the police arrived and examined the remains, they confirmed they belonged to Ingrid Lyne using her driver's license, and later through DNA verification. Before the body of Ingrid was discovered, forensic police searched her bathroom, confirming that the crime scene was indeed there. They found blood and tissues in the bathroom drain and noticed that the kitchen had a box of trash bags of the same brand and color as those found in the man's trash can. The worst was yet to come. The autopsy revealed something horrifying. Ingrid Lyne had been beaten multiple times and then strangled with intense force. The attacker was in a state of rage, and the manner in which she was strangled made it clear that the intention was to kill her. Afterward, he dismembered her with a saw, placed her remains in bags, and scattered them. To top it off, he stole her car. Another significant detail was that Ingrid's body had a high level of alcohol, which meant she was likely unable to defend herself properly, as she was too weak to resist. With this information, the police reconstructed the timeline of events. Ingrid was supposed to be home on Saturday the 9th, as she was punctual and responsible, never missing her commitments. The mistake occurred the previous night, specifically on Friday night. Something must have happened, and the last person Ingrid had been seen with was John. He was the main suspect. On April 11th, John was arrested and taken to the police station for interrogation. During questioning, John was uncooperative, cold, and impassive, as if Ingrid meant nothing to him. When asked about his injuries, defensive marks on his hands, arms, chest, and neck. John claimed not to remember how he got them. He first said he didn't recall anything, then claimed he had been mugged, defended himself, and collapsed. When asked about his relationship with Ingrid, John said it wasn't serious and that he had no intention of meeting her daughters. He said they went to a party, got drunk, and after that he didn't remember anything. Later he changed his story, saying they went to his house after the game, but he left after a while because he didn't want to meet the girls. At that moment, John seemed to smile. At this point, the agents were completely baffled. They observed on the surveillance cameras how John, after being left alone, removed his jacket, tossed it onto the floor, and lay down on top of it, appearing to take a nap. The officers were perplexed, and without any physical evidence against him, John was released. However, once the DNA results came back, John was arrested again and formally charged with first-degree murder and vehicle theft. His bail was set at $2 million, a sum he obviously couldn't afford. His face appeared on all the news channels, and his notoriety grew. On April 18th, more of Ingrid's remains were discovered scattered around Seattle. This development led to a surge of tips from various sources, including John's friends, former partners, and even his own parents. They informed the police that they hadn't heard from John in years. They revealed that he was a troubled individual, previously having had a restraining order placed against him. At the time of the crime, John had a criminal record spanning 6 states, including convictions for aggravated robbery and grand larceny. His parents described him as having a serious problem with drugs and alcohol, which often led to aggressive behavior. Shortly after, the police received another call from John's ex-girlfriend, Heather Danevsky, who had seen him on television. Heather informed them that she had dated John from 2012 to 2013 and that they had remained friends afterward. This information was revealed on Dr. Phil's show, leading Heather to recognize John's name in a news article. She was horrified and felt sick to her stomach upon reading it. In fact, I remember thinking to myself that I wasn't surprised. Her experience with John mirrored Ingrid's in many ways. They met, developed an attraction, went on dates, and John initially presented himself as a complete gentleman, bringing flowers, chocolates, and showing up at her place, doing things she liked. It was evident from the beginning that he had a car and his own home, which seemed to impress her. Eventually, she allowed him to move in with her, feeling as though she was walking on eggshells. She often felt that nothing she did was ever good enough for him. John was charming, witty, and intelligent, but there was something unsettling about him, perhaps a hint of mental instability. When he drank, his personality transformed. He became cruel and stubborn. While he was never physically violent, he was emotionally manipulative, getting inside your head. Heather recounted that John was not typically violent, but there was an incident that stood out. They had an argument, reconciled, and had sex. During their intimate moments, John squeezed her neck tightly. Afterward, he continued to do the same. By 2016, they were no longer a couple but remained friends. John would occasionally visit her house and perform some tasks. On the weekend of the events, he came by on Saturday morning, but was late and appeared with wounds all over his body. Heather asked about the injuries, but John was evasive, claiming they were the result of an insignificant fight. She sensed he was lying. The guy stayed over Saturday and Sunday, then disappeared. The next thing Heather knew, his face was all over the news. On Monday, October 2nd, 2017, John appeared in a King County court and pleaded guilty to all charges, including the murder and dismemberment of Ingrid Lyne. On January 5, 2018, he was sentenced to 27 years and 9 months in prison. Upon hearing his sentence, John became emotional and addressed the family. He asked for their forgiveness and, overwhelmed, admitted that the sentence was too lenient for the crime he committed. He expressed that he had taken away the compassionate and loving mother of their daughters, someone he deeply respected. He acknowledged that he had no right to take her life and that the punishment should be more severe. So what do you think of the case? Do you believe the sentence was fair and just? Well, that's the end of today's video. I hope you found this case interesting. If you did, please leave a like and a comment below with your thoughts about the case. Do you think John truly regretted his actions? See you in the next video. Bye.